How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So 2022 wasn't a very good year for comics. We saw a lot of comic books dropping. We saw a few go up, but majority of the comics all were dropping by like 50, 60, 70, even as high as 90% from their all-time highs that they're selling before. So let's take a look back at the beginning of the year and see which ones have dropped the most in this past year from January all the way up until today, the last day of December. So this will be the top 25 biggest losers of 2022. First at number 25, we got Captain America number 6. This is the first appearance of the Winter Soldier. A 9.8 back in January sold for as high as $389. Now it sells for $195. That is down 50%. And at one point it peaked at $408 this year, and that is down 52% from its peak. This was hyped up because of the TV show that came out earlier this year, and I don't know, didn't really do much, and so now the book has been dropping ever since. Next, we got Marvel Spotlight number 28. This is the first solo Moon Knight comic book. A 9.8, once sold for $3,900, now selling for $1,895. That is down 51%. At its peak, it was selling for $4,100 this year. That was down 54% from this year. Obviously, Moon Knight's taken a big hit because all the hype for the TV show, and now the TV show is done. Next, we got X-Men number 4, first appearance of Omega Red. A 9.8 was once selling for $255 at the beginning of the year, now selling for $114. That is down 55%. At one point, it is peaking at $300. That is down 62% from its peak. There's a lot of rumors of Omega Red in different various forms, and that never came to fruition. Next, we got Star Wars number 42. A 9.8 was selling for $38.40, now selling for $16.80. That's down 56%, and that was its peak back in January. There's a lot of hype around this book because of the Mandalorian TV show and then the Book of Boba Fett. But clearly, the Book of Boba Fett wasn't a very good TV show, and that really didn't help the fact that this was already kind of going down, and it just pushed it even further down. Next, we got Bloodstone number 1, first appearance of Elsa Bloodstone. A 9.8. Once sold for $975, now selling for $426. That is down 56%. At its peak, it was selling for $1021, and that is down 58% from its peak. The hype for this book was getting pushed really, really high because there could have been like some kind of TV show. Later, it turned out to be just like a one-shot, 1-hour special that was on Disney Plus, and they have no plans of going forward. Although pretty good, there's just really no plans going forward. Next, we got Marvel Comics Presents number 72. A 9.8 was once selling for $450, now selling for $195. That is down 57%, and that was its peak. No real hype or speculation on this book. This was just being pumped up really high during the comic boom, and it's been dropping ever since. Next, we got Inhumans number 5. A 9.8 was once selling for $60.99 back in January, now selling for $300. That is down 57%, and that was its peak. This got hyped up because Black Widow's sister is going to take over the Black Widow mantle. As you know, Black Widow is dead, so they need a new Black Widow. And she was also in the Hawkeye TV show earlier this year. And it just really hasn't been hitting well with fans, and this book has been dropping since then. Next at number 18, we got Invincible Iron Man number 7. First cameo appearance of Riri Williams. A 9.8 was selling for $300 back in January, now selling for $123. That is down 59%. At one point, it was selling for $325, and that is down 62% from its peak. We finally got our first look at Riri Williams. That's going to be Ironheart in a TV show coming out later next year, I believe. And it's nothing really to write home about. Next at number 17, we got Young Avengers number 1. A 9.8 back in January selling for $10.50. Now it's selling for $425. That is down 60%, and that was its peak. People have been hyping up this book for a very long time, thinking there's going to be some Young Avengers type movie. And they thought with introducing all these new young characters that they're going to come together in their own Avengers. It remains to be seen if that's actually going to happen. And even if it does, I think the hype for this book will be long gone. Next to number 16, we got Eternals number 1. A 9.8 in January selling for $1,800. Now that it currently sits at $670. That is down 63%, and that was its peak back in January. Eternals number 1 was never really that great of a book. It was always kind of a dollar bin book. But then the movie started coming out and it was getting hyped up like crazy. Clearly the movie came and went. No one cared about the movie. They're probably not even going to make a second one. And this book has been dropping ever since. Exiles number 3. A 9.8 was once selling for $403 back in January, now selling for $149. That is down 63%. It peaked at $685, and that is down 78% from its peak. This is where Peggy Carter picks up the shield and becomes Captain America, basically. We saw an iteration of her in Doctor Strange 2 when he went to another universe. And the hype for this book was pushed way beyond what it ever should have been, and it's kind of been dropping since. Next, at number 14, we got Vengeance #1. This is the first appearance of America Chavez. A 9.8 was once selling for $14.52, now selling for $5.30. That is down 63%. A 9.8 at one point was selling for $15.75. That is down 66% from its peak. America Chavez hyped up a ton. People thought this was going to be the next big thing. She shows up in Doctor Strange. No one cares. The book's been dropping ever since. There's no real news on what they're going to do with the character next, and this book will probably keep dropping even more. All new Marvel .1, first appearance of Kamala Khan. A 9.8 was once selling for $13.75 back in January, now selling for $4.99 in December. That is down 64%, and that was its peak. This book was hyped up a lot due to the TV show that has come and gone. Next, at number 12, we got Amazing Spider-Man 361, first appearance of Carnage. A 9.8 was once selling for $11.40 in January, now selling for $3.95. That is down 65%, and that was its peak. This book got hugely hyped up due to the movie that came out in Venom 2. It has since peaked and then started dropping all through 21 mostly, and then also now through 2022 has been dropping the entire time. Black Panther #2, first appearance of Shuri. A 9.8 was selling for $7.65 in January, now selling for $2.51. That is down 67%, and that was its peak. This book was being hyped up because they thought Shuri was going to be the next Black Panther, which she eventually did. But now it's just been dropping ever since, as people don't really care as much. At number 10, Ghost Rider #28, first appearance of the Midnight Suns. A 9.8 was selling for $2.15 back in January, now selling for $62. That is down 71%. At one point, it was peaking for $2.53. That is down 75%. This is getting hyped up because there's a video game called The Midnight Suns that was just released not too long ago, and that's about it. Next, we got Amazing Fantasy 15. This is the first appearance of Amadeus Cho, the new Hulk. A 9.8 back in January sold for $2,400. Now it's selling for $690. That is down 71%. At one point, it peaked at $2,500. That is down 72% from its peak. This got hyped up because they thought they're going to do some Young Avengers thing, and Amadeus Cho was going to be part of the new Young Avengers. At number 8, we got Moon Knight #1. A 9.8 was selling for $1,200. Now selling for $336. That is down 72%, and that was its peak. Moon Knight got hyped up a ton, and every book related to Moon Knight was selling for so much money. And of course, #1, selling for a ton, but the TV show has come and gone. People realized that, hey, this book is actually quite common, which drove the price down and continues to. Next, we got Invincible Iron Man #9. That's the first full appearance of Riri Williams. A 9.8 back in January selling for $1,000. Now it sells for $275. That is on 73%, and that was its peak. The hype for this book is tied to the fact that they're doing an Ironheart TV show, and they had Ironheart in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie, and it hasn't been that great of a response, so it's not really helping this book as it continues to drop more and more and more. At number 6, we got Usagi Yojimbo #1. A 9.8 was selling back in January for $1,800, now selling for $495. That's down 73%, and that was its peak. Although kind of obscure character, not as popular as any Marvel or DC character, this is kind of an independent character from the 80s. This book got hyped up because they were making a cartoon, which turned out to be not very good at all, and no one cared. I don't even think anybody watched it. And so since then, a lot of these books have been coming out of the woodwork and in high grade, and so they're just so easy to find. At number 5, we got Hawkeye #1. This is the first Kate Bishop solo series. A 9.8 was selling for $204 back in January, now selling for only $52. That's down 75%. At one point, it peaked at $385. That's down 86%. So this book was getting massively hyped up because of the Hawkeye TV show, because Kate Bishop is kind of like the center of the story. And that TV show has come and gone, and this book has just been dropping ever since. At number 4, we got New Avengers #7. This is the first appearance of the Illuminati. A 9.8 was selling back in January for $300. Now selling for $71. That is down 76%. At one point, it peaked for $680. That is down 90% from its peak. The Illuminati, a lot of hype and buzz around it. They showed up in Doctor Strange 2. Great scene with them. Loved it. But again, The hype was way too high for this comic book to begin with. It was always not really worth much, and it just came back down to where it's worth to begin with. At number 3, you got Marvel Premiere number 10. This is the first appearance of Shuma-Gorath. A 9.0 in January selling for $565. Now it sells for $132. That is down 77%. At one point, a 9.0 sold for $961. That is down from a peak of 86%. So in Doctor Strange 2, they showed some kind of monster that they were fighting, and people assumed it was Shuma-Gorath, which it was supposed to be. But due to some rights issues, it ended up being Gigantus, which was some random character in a Tales to Astonish comic book, and only appeared one time because they couldn't get the rights to the name, but it looked exactly like Shuma-Gorath. So needless to say, this book was hyped up. It wasn't really worth too much before, but it was hyped up really high, and then when it turned out to be someone completely different, this book just instantly started dropping. At number 2, we got Black Adam number 1, the variant. A 9.8 was selling for $800 back in January, now selling for $175. That is down 78%. At one point, it was peaking at $835. That is down 79% from its peak. So there's been a lot of news about the Black Adam movie. Finally comes out, and it kind of gets mixed results. A lot of people don't think it's very good. On top of the fact, it didn't really make very much money, and then James Gunn took over the DCEU and is just scrapping everything. So even if we wanted a Black Adam sequel, not going to happen. So Black Adam is pretty much done and dead. Although this book has a great cover by Alex Ross, which I personally really love, this book just started climbing up way too high, and then now it's just continued to fall. Before I show you the number 1 loser of 2022, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you like this kind of content, and hit that little like button down below. All right, so here is the number 1 biggest loser of 2022 from January all the way until December. At number 1, we got Savage She-Hulk number 1. A 9.8 at one point was selling for $2,087. Now a 9.8 sells for $420. That is down 80% in a single year. At one point, it was peaking at $23.07. That is down 82%. Wow, that's crazy. In 1 year, this book has dropped by 80%, going from $2,000, now selling for about a little over $400, and it'll probably continue to drop. It was all hyped up because the TV show was coming out. The TV show had very mixed reactions to it. Some people liking it and some people absolutely hating it. Overall, I said the majority was most people did not like it and had lots of problems with it. And it was kind of the catalyst of what's wrong with Phase 4. And it's kind of brought out all this stuff. Now, this comic book was always quite common and pretty easily found in high grade. So when the TV show came out, it didn't really do much in helping the comic book of this character. It kept on dropping. Also put in the fact that there's a lot of high grade books of this and it's very commonly found. Supply and demand, it just got flooded the market and just continued to drop, and there wasn't enough demand for this book for people to continue to buy it. So I hope you like this list of the 25 biggest losers of 2022. Let me know in the comments if you thought there should be a book on here that I didn't say, and I'll check it out and let you know. Have a great day and have a great new year.